I just want to start out by asking the listeners, do you like pickleball? Now, I haven't tried pickleball. It's on my list, but the next guest you heard laughing is Roger BelAir, and he is doing amazing work, folks. He introduced pickleball to an unlikely population that you're going to hear about. So, Roger, welcome to the show, sir.
Well, thanks, Patrick. It's great to be here. We got to get you out on the court. You
Yeah,
know,
I,
it,
you know, I always, because spent time, and I moved when I retired. I told you a little bit about
uh
my backstory before we started. I moved to Arizona for a couple of years. I was working
yeah,
remotely for where I'm working now. And everybody in Arizona, as you probably know, I mean, there's just pickleball tournaments and there's leagues. And I remember watching it initially and I was like, it just looks like, ping pong,
yeah.
but
What I call it? I call it ping pong on steroids because
yeah.
that's kind of what it is. And it's so easy to learn. You can learn it after breakfast, and by lunchtime you're pretty good. You know?
But it's so competitive, Roger. We'll get into
Yeah,
it, but I couldn't believe it, and it's not just for older people; it's for younger people too. I mean,
absolutely.
everybody's
Yeah.
out there, and it's great for your body and cardiovascular stuff. But I want to kind of before we get into what you're doing, what's your background, Roger, and how did you fall into this?
Well, my background's in finance.
Hmm.
I was a banker, and then I left that profession when I was 38, and then ended up writing a couple books on finance
Oh my
that
God!
sold quite well. And then I met a guy at a party, and he says, "Let me introduce you to my agent." His name was Vince Lombardi Jr. So
Oh
that
my,
led to a
wow!
Vince is a great guy and a good friend, and that led to a speaking career. But about 15 years ago, Patrick, what happened was I discovered pickleball just
Yeah.
kind of by accident. And coming from a professional speaking career, I said, "This is great, and I bet I could teach it." And so I started teaching it at the local gymnasium, and yeah, that was the start of it.
Yeah. So and back then, Roger, I would imagine it wasn't as big as it is today. I mean,
Oh
15
no,
years ago, it was probably just in its infancy.
no. And then I got to know one of the founders. I
Yeah.
feel so blessed now that I got to know him. And I like to say that friends are found rather than made. You
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
sit next to
Exactly.
somebody for 20 years and not really connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we really hit it off. He had a business background, and so I learned all about the history of the game. And he's passed away now, but I really treasure the time I spent with him.
Oh, geez, that's wonderful. Now, okay, so you get into pickleball about 15 years ago. You become, I'm assuming, an expert in it. You become very well versed in the rules and everything. What happens next?
Well, you know what happened? I was teaching, at the local gym, and it was going really well. And my wife and I, we've been married for decades. We
Hmm.
we normally watch 60 Minutes on Sunday night.
Yeah.
And back in 2017, Leslie Stahl had a segment on Cook County Jail in Chicago. Now, for your listeners that aren't familiar with that, that's a tough
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Being a former cop, you realize that they got about 90 gangs.
Yeah.
They got 150 members of those gangs. They outnumber the cops 10-1, and it's a tough place.
Yeah.
And there's a guy by the name of Sheriff Tom Dart. He runs the place. They got about 8,000-9,000 people, waiting to go in front of the judge. And I'm watching this segment, and the guys are just sitting around. They're watching TV, they're playing cards. And I said to my wife, I said, they should be playing pickleball. You
What did
know,
your wife say at that time?
well,
You're gonna have
she looked at me, and I got one of those
gang members
looks
playing
that
pickleball.
husbands get from time to time. Uh, yeah, that's right. And she kind of politely nodded. And then I said, it just kind of came out organically. I just
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
I'm going to go back there. I'm going to teach those guys how to play pickleball.
Yeah.
Well, that got more of a reaction from her. She kind of said, well, your intentions are good. Um, but Sheriff Dart gets a lot of letters. Don't be disappointed if he never gets back to you. And so I sat down and I said, here's my background. Um, I'd love to come back on my own dime, and I'll teach you guys how to play pickleball. Well,
Wow.
Sheriff Dart, he never heard of pickleball back then.
He's like,
He,
what?
he puts a letter on the side of his desk. I understand. And that night over dinner, he says to his family, he's got 3 kids. He says, I got this letter from this guy in Seattle, something about balls and pickles. 8-year-old daughter puts her hand on her hip and said, Dad, I'll tell you about pickleball.
That's
All right.
hilarious.
Isn't that great?
Oh my
Because
God.
if it hadn't been for her, we wouldn't be talking today, probably.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So you end up going to Cook County. Tell
Right.
tell tell us that story. You go to
Well,
the jail.
I get on the airplane, I go to Cook County, I take an Uber to the jail.
So the this guy says, okay, it's okay. You can come in
Yeah,
and do what you
yeah,
want.
yeah. Well, he had a subordinate, of course, get a
Yeah,
hold of
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Uh, but then, I drive up to this enormous facility. I mean, I just could not believe the size of this place, and it says maximum security.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it hit me. Here I am, over 70 years
Yeah,
old,
yeah, exactly.
going into a place that, you know, I look around, I couldn't believe the size of it.
Yeah.
I think it's about 10 football fields in size.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just enormous.
Yeah.
So I go through clearance, I meet my contacts, and I find myself standing in front of about 25 guys, all charged with either murder or attempted murder.
Wow.
And I thought I'd just give them a little background about the game. It started outside of Seattle, and here's how it came about. Well, I couldn't even get eye contact.
Yeah.
I mean, arms were crossed. Guys would get up and go to the water fountain and get a drink. Nobody had ever heard of pickleball, but I didn't know what to do. I thought of my wife. I thought of my dog.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I didn't know if I was going to be out on an airplane back that night
Yeah,
to
exactly.
Seattle. Not knowing what to do, I said, well, let's go to the courts. So we all go to the courts, and here's what happened. I'd say within 10 minutes, they had turned into third graders on the playground.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they're laughing, they're goosing each other. I mean, they went from not paying any attention to something that I had to say to listening to every single word. I mean, I was
Wow.
like a Pied Piper. And of course, when I say that, it's not Roger.
Yeah.
It's the game.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Okay.
and it's simple to learn. You right, Roger?
Yeah, I like to say you can learn it after breakfast, and by lunchtime, you're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And take a lot of sports like golf. I've been trying to learn golf for 40 years.
I play golf too. It's you get good at one aspect of it, and you fall back on another.
Absolutely. But with pickleball, there is very basic rules. I like to call it ping pong on steroids. It's easy to learn. It's easy on the joints. Historically, there's been a lot of older people that play it, but now it's getting younger and younger.
Yeah.
And I don't need to tell you, Patrick, how it's growing. I talked to a reporter not long ago from the Boston Globe. He says it's the fastest growing sport in the history of this country.
Yeah, I mentioned Roger. I mean, I was living in Arizona. I was living in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And pickleball has become so popular there that the gyms that I had a membership at Lifetime. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a big, huge, private gym or membership only gym. They actually took the basketball courts.
Yeah.
And there's so much demand for pickleball that they converted them into pickleball courts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the game was actually started in this in the 60s and 70s, but it didn't get to be popular until after the turn of the century. The game was started in 65, but after 2000, baby boomers went to Arizona and down to Florida. All right,
where it's most popular, it seems like.
Yeah, though and what happened is they could do it, and they had fun, and then they brought the thing north. So that's when it started to take off with popularity. Wow. All right. And then once COVID hit, it just,
but it's coming back. And now you go back to, let's rewind a little bit and go back to Okay, you're in Cook County. The detainees love it. They're having fun. They're acting like kids. It becomes more and more popular. And then all of a sudden, you're getting some media attention. Can you talk about
Well,
that?
I was at Cook County 3 times. All
Yeah,
right, it went so well, and I developed a relationship with the staff. They're detainees. They're not found guilty yet.
yeah, yeah.
All right, but so they're waiting to go in front of the judge. They loved it. The third time I was there, what happened is the coordinator says, tomorrow USA Today is going to be here, the sports reporter to cover pickleball. Well, I just happened to be there. All right.
Wow.
So he interviewed me, he interviewed the inmates or the detainees, some of the staff. Uh, and, that came out that what would happen, it was disciplinary problems were way down. That, the comment was made to him is that, some, gang members traditionally hate each other's gangs. If you're not in my gang, you're
Yeah,
the enemy.
yeah.
But they were playing together. So he wrote up the story, and I couldn't wait. I told my next door neighbor, I told the guys at the gym, I said, and then he calls me up a couple of days later and he says, "Well, Roger, I don't know how to tell you this, but it's not going to be on the sports page." Oh man,
Yeah,
Patrick, my heart dropped,
yeah,
because I said, "Oh man, it's a great story. Why'd
yeah,
they
yeah.
kill?" And then he chuckles and he says, "Well, the editors read it. They're going to put it on the front page." Main
Wow.
story. That's back when the USA Today had one main story in the front page.
Yeah, yeah.
That was it.
Wow. And that
Yeah.
must have just made you feel so good. You're giving back, and
Oh,
it's just amazing. You're changing lives, Roger.
well, when you think about it, um, probably the most moving part for me is, I knew disciplinary problems were down because guys wanted to play. They get into trouble, they can't play. But, when you can take opposite gang members
Absolutely.
and they'll play together on a court, something positive has to come out of that.
Yeah.
I came from the corporate world where they had sensitivity training. They put everybody in a room for an afternoon, and everybody'd say the right thing.
Mhm.
Did it change opinions? Well, let's hope so, but maybe not. But if you can take people and they can play together and they can laugh together, something positive is going to come out of that.
Well, and yeah, I agree 100%. And when you get like you said, Roger, we get these opposite
Yeah.
gangs, and traditionally they've been at war, they've been killing each other,
Oh yeah.
and they can learn like to come together and say, you know what? We actually can have a conversation. We
Yeah.
actually can have fun without shooting each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's amazing. So it starts getting more popular. I believe you start getting calls from other jails, like
Yeah.
Rikers. Rikers has
Yeah. But
historically.
before I tell you about Rikers,
You go ahead.
that article's still online. So if somebody Googles my name in USA Today, they can still read the piece. And I think it's really touching. It covers exactly what I just said. Yeah. So I got some, publicity, and publicity moves the needle, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I heard from Rikers Island. Now, for those that don't know, that's the jail in New York City.
Historically,
And,
one of the most violent
oh,
jails in the nation.
yeah, it's tough. They got a standing population, maybe 9,000 to 10,000. They got 100,000 people to go through there every year. It's tough. I had a little background now. So I went into Rikers. I spent a week back there. I got a letter from the deputy commissioner after I was done, all kinds of praise. And actions speak louder than words. He, because of what happened during that week, he ordered pickleball equipment for 20 courts.
Now, did you get the same reaction from the detainees that you did from Cook County? Like when you
Yeah,
first go in there, Roger, and they're like, okay, what's this guy want?
yeah,
What's he
yeah,
trying to sell us?
yeah. Pretty much. What happened was that article on USA Today got circulated.
Oh,
All
okay.
right. So they read the one article. Other than that, they had never heard about pickleball. And but Cook County Jail was virgin territory. I mean, nobody, when I stood up, I said, today was going to be about pickleball. Anybody hear about pickleball? There wasn't a single hand that went up.
Yeah.
But at Rikers, they were a little bit more prepared.
So again, the ball keeps going, the needle keeps moving up.
Yeah.
You head back west, right, to California,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And you hit San Quentin, which again is another very, very tough prison in California for the listeners.
That's probably the most notorious prison in the
Oh
country.
my God, yeah. And tell us the story, Roger, about what happened with a warden there.
I'm sitting at my desk, and all of a sudden I get an email from the warden at San Quentin. And he basically says, what I'd like to do is set up a Zoom call. All right. 3 or 4 of my lieutenants and the warden. And so we set it up a couple of days in advance. And when we all got online, I said, well, Warden, let me tell you about some of the benefits of pickleball on the inside. And he does something like, stop. I've done my homework. When can you be here?
He's like, I don't want to hear the selling points.
Well,
you already speak. Your actions have spoke louder than words. So
he's a great guy, and we've become friends. And he's retired now, but it was just, that's just kind of who he is. And he said it wasn't with a smile on his face that he didn't need to be sold.
Yeah,
he recognized the benefits and was willing to give it a try.
Yeah.
All right. But, San Quentin's been around for about 175 years.
Oh, yeah.
And what I've kind of, as I was morphing through this, I said, wouldn't it be great to kind of get the staff as well as the inmates kind of on the same court?
That would be cool.
As you, with your background, certainly realize they're adversaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes me think about The Longest Yard, the movie with Burt Reynolds. You remember that movie?
Oh yeah, yeah. They don't really communicate that much. The officers are the disciplinarians, and so I'm dealing with one of the lieutenants, and so I run the idea up the flagpole. I said, it'd be great to get some of the staff out there, or how about this? How about even the warden? and I got a kind of a polite chuckle. I said, Roger, San Quentin's been around for 170 years. The warden has never, ever participated in an athletic event. The only person that's going to be out there is a rec supervisor, but none of the rest of the staff. So I kind of let go of it, but I communicated a couple of other times with the warden, moving up, setting a date, that type of thing. And I kind of bounced the idea off him, and there was no response. And San Quentin, hopefully your listeners have never been on the inside, because it's really an intimidating place. It's been around for many, many years. I went inside the gates, and it was like a press conference. All these different microphones being stuck in my face, cameras running. It just has a real air about it, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
I worked my way to the courts where they have it set up. There's a guy with a headband and shorts and a paddle. And he says, "Hi, I'm Warden Smith."
That is hilarious.
Oh,
you won him over.
Yeah. And, so he's out on the court, and the officers see this, and they say, well, I guess if the warden can do that, then maybe we can play too. And so they did. And, in full uniform. All right. We had a great day. And I'll share a couple comments about that. There's a podcast called Uncuffed, and I don't know,
I've heard
Patrick,
of it.
if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
All right. They did a podcast on the day I was there. And there was, of course, many comments like, could you believe it? The warden was actually out there. Could you? I was amazed to see, like the doctor was out there, and, some of the officers were out there. Maybe this was a day that changed the culture of San Quentin.
I was thinking that, Roger. I
Yeah,
mean, when you
yeah,
have the end all be all, the warden, not only is it motivating for the personnel that work there, for the correctional officers,
right.
but the inmates and the detainees, they see that and they're like, this guy's willing to come down and play this sport with us.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's very inspiring.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And the warden, I've been back to San Quentin several times, and like I said, I developed a
Yeah.
relationship with the warden, and he recently retired. But he says the day you introduced pickleball at San Quentin was one of the five top highlights of my
Wow,
career.
that's amazing,
Yeah.
Roger. What is it? What is it about pickleball that's so appealing to everybody, from a detainee to an to a young? I mean, it just spans different types of demographics, but there's so many other things to do out there. There's basketball, there's baseball,
Yeah.
and I understand logistically when when somebody's incarcerated, you can't do other sports. But
Sure.
what's the draw to pickleball? What do you think?
Well, I've been asked that many questions, and I asked that question to the founder
Hmm.
because, like I said, we developed a relationship, and I'd visit. He was in a retirement center, and I'd visit him once a month. But I said, "What makes special? What makes pickleball so special?" And he says, "Roger, it's the most social sport out there. If you play golf, for example, you play with maybe three or four guys,
But
something
it's an
like that.
inside game. It's a head game in your
Yeah,
mind.
yeah. But pickleball, the way the game works generally on the outside is you show up at the courts by yourself. You put your paddle down in a queue. It's You play a game to 11 or 12 or 11, and then those people exit the court, those four players, and it's the next four people up. So on a given day, Patrick, you play with maybe a dozen different people.
Wow.
And as you're on the sidelines, what you do is you start developing this rapport of a
Yeah, yeah.
conversation
Networking.
of getting the on first name basis of how you doing and that type of thing. And that's what separates pickleball from all other sports.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
think about it, basketball, well, you have your team of five, and you got a few guys on the bench, but you don't have that type of social
Yeah.
interaction.
Yeah. And you're
So
running. You're not running up and down a court.
no, no, no. Like I said, it's the best way for me to describe it is ping pong on steroids. Almost
Yeah.
everybody can do it. There's a
Yeah.
there's a tournament that you have to be 80 years old just to enter. Yeah. you know?
And imagine it gets pretty competitive. Well, it does with all the leagues and everything that are around.
Sure, and people want to win, but more important than that, they want to have fun.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I've been asked more than once, why do pickleball players laugh so much? They're just having fun out there, and it's organic, and it just brings them back. So,
And the obvious health benefits, Roger. I mean,
oh, of course,
it keeps seniors active.
of course,
I mean, it's a simple game, like you said. And I told you, Roger, I live in Florida, and so
yeah,
every day when I head to work, I see the courts, and they're filled with all kinds of people, young, old. Then they're just
that's
playing
right.
pickleball.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But and I've heard so many stories, not only from the incarcerated, but also people on the outside.
Oh yeah,
Talking the other day of a guy, he said he lost 75 pounds.
yes,
Started playing pickleball, losing some weight, and then he was encouraged by that, so he changed his diet, and he says, "I'm down 75 pounds."
it's amazing.
Yeah,
That's amazing. And you know what? And like I go back to, I mean, just it's so gratifying for you. You get the call, you're talking to the warden of San Quentin who says that was one of the biggest highlights of my career.
yeah,
That's amazing, Roger.
yeah.
You changed his life.
Uh, well, I want to repeat, it's not me, it's the game. All
Well, no,
right.
it's the game, but
Yeah,
I think it's how the game is delivered. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's anybody can teach the game, but I think it takes a certain type of person to go in that environment and to
yeah,
make it where people want to learn. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what's amazing, sir.
I'm
What
I'm a storyteller, so it's real easy for me to
and
incorporate the
and that's what our minds like stories.
yeah. Yeah.
And talk about
You know, I'm,
oh,
I'm,
go
I
ahead, sir.
want to, speaking of stories, I want to share this with you because I did it first in Cook County Jail that we've talked about. And then because of that, I've done it every place else. So there's basically three different rules as far as how you play the game. All right, and so I teach rule number one and two, and I get them out on the court, and they get that down. And then I add number three, and then the hardest part of this game, believe it or not, is keeping score.
Yeah.
You got to count to 11, but it's a little bit tricky, so that's a little bit awkward. So I get them playing the first game, and they just can't sit still. So I said, how many rules are there, guys? They think for a second. They said four. Well, what's the
Wow.
fourth rule? Well, you haven't told us yet. All right. Well, we just finished our first game, right? Okay. So here we have the gold place winners and those that came in second place, and on their opposite sides of the net. So in pickleball, what you do is you come together, come in a little closer, guys, and we have a group hug.
That's amazing. And they're
Well,
surprised by that.
yeah. Well, you think you're surprised. What about the guys that are in jail waiting and
Exactly.
charged with murder or attempted murder, and you got some old white guy from Seattle saying we're going to have a group hug. All right.
And they do it.
Well, no, what they do is this part I love so much. They just absolutely freeze.
Yeah.
It brings them back to reality where they're laughing and giggling and acting like a bunch of teenage girls, and now they're stone faced.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm kind of like I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So what I do is I put my paddle up over the net. I bring them in. We tap paddles, and I said, guys, that is a group hug in pickleball. It's
Wow.
one of the rules, and you will do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
That's,
So it's so satisfying to me to go into a prison, and I've taught people, and there's courts over here and courts over here, and hear somebody shout out, "All right, everybody, group hug." Yeah.
so it's amazing. So you're
Yeah.
in 23 states now and 62 prisons. Is that correct, Roger?
Well,
Or is it growing? Is it bigger than that?
it grew. What happened was, uh, I was on NPR. There was a major story. I was in Florida for a week, and there was a major story in the Washington Post. And people kind of came out of the woodwork and said, that is terrific. I'm an avid pickleball player. I understand it. I get it, why it works. I want to do what you do. Will you tell me what to do? And Patrick, my answer is I love telling people what to do. I,
Who
sometimes I
doesn't?
like to sometimes I like to tell people where to go. All right. And so individually, I'd say, well, here's how we set the thing up and answer all the questions and make them feel comfortable. And then a woman by there, Sarah Gersten, out of Connecticut, reached out to me, and she was basically the same thing. I said, let's form a nonprofit so that we can kind of support each other.
Yeah.
So we did, and we call it Pickle, PICL. And so we got this nonprofit. Well, then the momentum just has continued to grow, and we're in 23 states right now.
That's amazing.
65 different prisons. And it's just wonderful.
Now, in order to replicate this, Roger, I mean, you can't be everywhere at once. So I imagine there's like a mentee kind of program, and you teach people to go in, and or
Well,
do you do all of it?
no, there's what I do is I work with them over the phone.
Okay.
I said first, all you really need to do is be fully present and be enthusiastic. There's only, I say, 4 rules. There's really only 3 rules plus the special rule. All
I
right.
like the special rule.
Yeah, and I say just be yourself.
Yeah.
And they understand the game. If they have any questions, I walk them through it. I don't try to have them use my style, but what I do is help coordinate them and say, what you got to do is we got to contact the warden.
Yeah.
We're not going to call up the prison and say we want to introduce pickleball, because it's a great big bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And there's, as you well know, there's going to be somebody that says no. All right.
Yeah.
Then how do you go around that person? So I encourage them to send a package of information to the warden. All right. And in that package will be testimonial letters from Cook County Jail and the places we've talked about, as well as a couple of articles of how it works. And this person introduces themselves and say, I live right up the street. I'd like to come down. I'd like to introduce a program
Yeah.
to the prison. And
That's
so it's very simple. It's very organic. It's just, and it's just plain works. And, some of the comments that I hear, some of the letters I get, it's just unbelievable about how it's changing lives on the inside.
yeah. And I imagine, the wardens like it because it keeps the population calm. It keeps them, excited to look forward to another game of pickleball. It probably cuts on recidivism to some
Yeah.
degree,
Yeah.
and it changes communities. You mean these people get out of prison. Most people aren't in prison for life. They're going to get out, and so
Right.
they have this outlet that they can turn to. Hey, I learned pickleball.
Yeah, I
And
want to make a couple points here because you've covered excellent information.
yeah,
First of all, the new motto on the inside is "Don't behave, don't play."
yeah.
All right.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So they know that they get into trouble, they get in a fight or whatever, they can't play. But let's talk about them getting out. 95% of all inmates eventually get back into society. All right. And if we can make them better people while they're on the inside, it makes it much better for all of us once they
Absolutely,
get back into society. All right.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
the state of California is, I'm working out of the headquarters, and a high-ranking official said to me not too long ago. She says, as much good as pickleball is doing on the inside, Roger, I think the number one benefit is after they get out.
Yeah,
Well, Patrick, that set me back a little bit. I said, well, explain that to me. She says the recidivism in this country is about 65, 70%.
it's huge.
Something like Norway is 10 to 15%. What do they do differently than we do so that we can get people back into society and they'll stay in society? And in doing the research, we know it's three things. First of all, they need income. They
Hmm.
need a job. And yet the hard reality is a year after getting out, half of all inmates or former inmates are still looking for work.
Yeah.
All right. The second thing they need is support. Now, you normally think that support is the family.
No, it's
Right.
community support.
Yeah. Well, the
It's
support,
community. Yeah, yeah.
but sometimes families are terrific at that and other times they're not. But the third thing they need is community. Bingo. That's where pickleball comes in.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can buy a $50 paddle. They can go down to public courts. They can get involved with community. They can make new friends on a first name basis as compared to going back to the same circle of friends that they had before.
Absolutely. And like you said, Roger, it teaches them on the outside. What they learn on the inside, they
Yeah,
apply on the outside. Communication skills, maybe
absolutely. Teamwork.
de-escalation. Yeah. Teamwork, analytical skills, all this stuff. And
Yeah.
that's yeah, it's just amazing. Where do you think this is going, Roger? I mean, in the future, I mean, obviously you started a movement.
Oh,
You
yeah.
started a
It's a
movement.
national movement. Right now on the inside, the number one sport's basketball.
Yeah.
All right. Because a lot of the inner city kids, that's what they grew up playing. But let's talk about basketball. It's dominated by the young, the athletic, and the tall. Everybody else sits on the sidelines.
True. Yeah.
Right? Okay. So that lets us out, doesn't it? All right. But also basketball on the inside is such a physical game. There's so
Yeah.
many injuries that some prisons even want to eliminate it because of that.
Yeah.
All right. And yet you look at pickleball, which is a non-contact sport, and the benefits that we're talking about. So it growing, I asked the warden, I said, where do you see pickleball growing? Do you see it becoming more popular on the inside than basketball? His answer was, I sure do. So I think it's only a matter of time because every prison that we've introduced it to, it's been very successful.
Wow.
All right. It's only a matter of time until it grows to be the number one sport played on the inside.
Wow. Well, Roger, I have thoroughly enjoyed, sir, having you on the show. Can you let the listeners know how, if they want to reach out to you, if anybody out there is listening and they think maybe they're a correctional officer, maybe, whatever, you're a cop and, want to introduce pickleball to your agency, where can they find you, Roger?
Yeah, well, let me give you first of all our website
Yeah,
for pickle, and it's PICLEAGUE. So it's pickle, the word pickle, but we had to put the word league in there. .org. And I'm also going to give you a share with my personal email address, which is BELAIRR at Gmail. All right.
Roger.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And for the
Eh,
listener out there, oh, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, yeah. And I encourage anybody to reach out to me, and if they have any questions about the game or whatever, and I'd be happy to talk to them.
Roger, thank you so much. And for the listener out there, we're going to put some links up there, including Roger's contact information, his website he just mentioned, and of course, some articles, including the USA Today article. Roger, thank you so much for taking the time to come on, sir. God bless you. You are truly doing life-changing things for so many people, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Patrick.
All righty, sir. Bye-bye.